We're back.
We're back.
So today, this Monday, we're talking about Law 33 from the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene.
That's
And
right.
Law 33, I really like this one. It says, discover each man's thumbscrew. Everyone has a weakness, a gap in the castle wall.
Wow.
That weakness is usually an insecurity, an uncontrollable emotion or need. It can also be a small secret pleasure. Either way, once found, it is a thumbscrew you can turn to your advantage. And that's Law 33. Discover each man's thumbscrew. I'll open with a story where this law, I think, was in a positive light, because this is definitely talking about weaknesses, gaps in the castle wall, insecurities, and you can use it to take advantage, right? You can use it to turn things to your advantage. Well, one exercise that I did years ago was I wrote down on this little journal of mine the names of all the different characters that I had been, all the different people that I was associated with in business, that I did business with. And I wrote their name, and then a little exercise was like, what words come to mind when I think of these people? And so I did that for a specific list, and I began to study a little bit the people because I wanted to not manipulate the people, but I wanted to be better at interacting with these people.
So let me get this right. Everybody that you were in business with, or you had some kind of business association, you wrote their names down, and then one word that when you saw their name and you thought of them associated with.
Actually, more than one word. Whatever came to mind.
Got it. Okay, yeah. Excellent.
And there was this one particular person, which I get along with very well, I have a lot of respect for, that I noticed that every time that something was said about them, they really lit up. They really liked getting recognition, which I think we all want attention. Deep down, we all want recognition. But for some people, it seems to brighten them up a little more. And so what I began to do was, when I would go to these different offices that I was working with, and these people were partners with me, I began to highlight the great things that this person was doing in a tactful way, because you have other characters also that you have to deal with. And then I started to notice that the energy was really good with this person. And long story short, I would highlight the good things that they were doing and kind of in front of the whole team, and they would light up, and they would send me more business, and they would send me more business. And then I would highlight again, look at what this person did. They're an example to us, and this and that. And they really liked that. And it became one of the most fruitful financially partnerships that I ever had in the business. But not only that, also we became friends and are still friends. But I believe that I found what made him tick, which that's what this law is about. Find what makes each person tick. And now if it's a weakness, or if it's something you use to manipulate them, that's different. But this was mutually beneficial in a positive light.
Wow, that's fantastic.
So I just wanted to open with that, because it doesn't have to be negative. It doesn't have to be used in a bad way.
Okay.
So that's one of my experiences. How about you?
So in my mind right now, I'm trying to figure out who that is. Don't say who it is. You'll tell me at the end of the podcast, because I have no idea. And
maybe I'll share. Maybe I won't.
No, okay. but of course, you're my son. Yeah. So I've been with you all your life, and since you got involved in business and it was associated with what we did, I've been in your business life too.
I always shared with you stuff about the business.
I don't know who you're talking about. And this is unusual, because sometimes most of the times when we say something, we realize who the other person is, because we're so integrated into our business lives also. Mm-hmm. I have no idea who you're talking about at the moment. So,
Yeah. So
after the podcast, you can tell me if you wish to do so.
so yeah, yeah. I think if we can discover each man, each woman that we are in business with, let's say, or we work with, what makes them tick, like a clock, right? What makes them tick, then we can work better with them. It doesn't have to be manipulate. Now, Robert Greene shares um, how you can use this to manipulate because you're finding somebody's secrets, or right, you're finding maybe something that a void that they have that they're trying to fill, and if you can fill that, or if you can find that, you can control that person, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, no doubt about it. Yeah, you exploit that weakness.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was interesting how he talks about the there's always a weak link in the armor.
Yeah, there's always the weakest link. And I think it was Napoleon that said you attack that link. And then there goes the chain. So yes, absolutely. There's always something or someone that can be labeled the weakest link in that particular defense. And then you attack that.
And so part of this law is, how do you find out what that weak link is? And Robert Greene even talks about different strategies that have been used where you come and you pretend to be sincere with somebody and you share with them a vulnerability of yours. It could be real, it could be fake, but you share with them a vulnerability, and then before you know it, they are coming out and saying, being sincere with you, and maybe sharing one of their weaknesses. That's very manipulative.
Much more genuinely than.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, I love it.
What do you think? What do you think about this Law 33?
I really like this law a lot. And I've been using it for a very, very long time. And actually, I'll share a quick story. I was using this law. I've been using this law for 35 years. So it's interesting because the book was published in 1998. Okay? So I wasn't aware that this was a law or anything like that. I started using something similar to this to protect my own survival. Okay? And I'll tell you quickly. But then when the book came out and I read it, I realized what I was doing and I perfected it. And because the book gives you a roadmap, a guide.
Yeah.
You know?
Examples.
I wasn't even aware of what I was doing. I was, but okay, so here's what happened. A long time ago, when God created the heavens and the earth, I really didn't know what I was going to do. But business was not on my foresight. I never thought that I was going to become a businessman. I was in the medical field and pre-med student, and I was studying my microbiology, organic chemistry, calculus, inorganic, all that stuff, right? And I took one class for fun at Loma Linda University. It was called Comparative Religions. And the teacher, I can say his name. This is 50 years ago. He was Chaplain Osborne. But he was excellent. He was one of the best instructors I've ever had in my life. And it was called Comparative Religions. And that class really touched me, and I took copious notes. I took a ton of notes. And I, like these tablets, I never get rid of them. I had it. So when life took me in the direction of business, and I opened the doors to my own agency, the first few years were brutal. I was very naive. I trusted people. I got taken advantage of many a time. It was brutal. And I had to develop something to protect myself. And so one day, just going over stuff and throwing things away, I saw my tablet from that class. And I just started reading over little things. And it's in one of the notes, Chaplain Osborne has said, you need to protect yourself by creating an aura or some kind of shield, even if it's psychological. And I took that to the bank, and I remember the following day, when I went to my office, when I put the key in the deadbolt, and that's the part you've heard before, I would think, okay, now I'm going to deal with the public. I'm a salesman, and I'm going to get beat up. But you know what? It's not going to get to me, because before I turned that key, I would psychologically think that I had like a protective shield,
Yeah.
where whatever people said and did, it would bounce off of me. Because the first few years in business, I didn't have that. And even though it sounds silly, and it may well, but I believed it. And I believed it, and it worked for me. And I think that it allowed me to take things a little lighter. Because when somebody said something that was insulting or whatever, or demeaning, in my mind, I would picture as they were speaking, boop, it just bounced off my shield. Boop. It didn't hit me. It didn't hit me. Later on, before Robert Greene, I read some stuff on Mahatma Gandhi. And Mahatma Gandhi was always taking insults with a smile. And somebody asked him, well, why? How do you do that? How is that possible? Don't you have any, nerves in you? Aren't you a live human being? And he goes, yeah. But look, when somebody gives me an insult, I picture myself as a mirror. And those insults are being reflected right back to the person that's giving them to me. I don't accept your insult. I refuse to accept your insult. And when I read that, that was a confirmation or a reconfirmation that what I was thinking due to my notes in that class. I went to Loma Linda University, so we're talking
You created
years back, Mike. I mean, this is before the books and everything. And I needed to do something because I was taking a lot of things very hard, very personally. Nobody taught me business. Everything I learned on my own,
So you created like a defense mechanism, a way of protecting your mental state.
That is correct.
Yeah.
And I shared that once only with one person. And then after that, I started sharing it with my kids, you guys, and the family. But I shared it with one of my attorneys who has become a dear, dear friend. Okay? I lovingly call him my Persian son. And I shared that with him. And he was very attentive when I did that. And months later, he called me and he said, hey, you know what? In a conversation that we had, I'm doing what you said. It's working very well for me. And I thank you for sharing that for me. And so, yeah, and I do that every day. When I go out, I just think I have, But I used to do it in my old office because I used to come in through the back door and I put my key in the deadbolt. And before I turned that deadbolt, I created that.
I find it interesting because your take on this law is about creating like a
protection for myself instead of
right. My take on this law is finding people's weakness. So, for example, like if I were to encounter somebody like you, and I see that you have this protective shield.
I have a ton of issues.
Well, what my approach when I was looking into this law, I'm thinking, well, how do you find the weakness in that shield? Because even though you had that protective shield, there's still a way to get to the
there is actually.
It's just interesting how your which I think is great. Your perspective is like, hey, have some sort of mental protection when you go out to war.
Oh,
and it's funny because when I was doing life insurance sales, which is a challenging thing to do, I used to say I'm going to battle, like I'm going to war every day. And it literally felt like not necessarily against the customer, but it felt war in the sense that like people are trying to everybody's trying to feed their family.
Right.
And let's say somebody was sending me business at any point in time and many times, and one time in particular, there was somebody who actually kind of behind my back tried to take business from me.
Welcome to the business world.
Correct. And that was what I meant by like it felt like war.
Right,
It
right.
felt like a battle every day.
It
I was
is.
swinging my sword. That's what I felt. But it's interesting how you come with that perspective, and I think that that's a great way to protect yourself.
And my attorney, he probably still does it, although now he's become a professor. But that's probably still a war.
One of the quotes that in this chapter I thought was really important was, and it reminded me of your dad, Abuelo Pablo, my grandpa. It says, no mortal can keep a secret if his lips are silent. He chatters with his fingertips. Betrayal oozes out of him at every pore. And this is a quote by Sigmund Freud.
Yeah.
Now, so, for example, I come across you. You have your shield.
Yes.
And you're trying to protect yourself from everybody and being attacked and everything. But there's still a way to find out your weaknesses.
Oh, no
right?
doubt about it.
And that's what I'm very interested in, because it's the human psychology piece of it. It's like, how do you figure out what makes him tick? And Grandpa used to say, your dad, right? Un secreto entre dos ya no es secreto. A secret between two people is no longer a secret.
Correct.
But Sigmund Freud goes even to be...
He said that a lot. My dad said that a lot.
But Sigmund Freud is even saying, even within yourself, you're keeping a secret. It's oozing out of you.
Yeah, the book says, look, even if verbally it's not betrayed verbally, you can look at the body language, and the body language will betray that person.
Yes.
The only thing you need to do is listen more and be more alert to the cues of the body language.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I find that part very interesting, like body language and analyzing people. Sometimes, Robert Greene in a different podcast, I've heard him say, you cannot fake the voice.
What's that now?
You cannot fake your voice.
Okay.
You can put on a smile.
Okay.
Your eyes, you can try to look like, you're in great shape. But if I offended you, he talked about the high pitches in the voice.
And you have.
the high pitch, and he says you can't hide that. He says when you offend somebody, or when they can smile, they can make it look, oh no, I'm okay. But the voice will, what's it called when it you?
Yeah, you can't fake it.
When you're shaky.
Uh-huh.
Like when something really got to you, and you're shaky.
Oh yeah.
That was very interesting, because he, in the Laws of Human Nature, which is another book that Robert Greene wrote, he talks a lot about the subtle cues.
You're so right. This weekend we went to a concert, and the gentleman that was singing sang a song that when I got here from Cuba, my aunt and uncle raised me together with my mom and dad, and they are the people that made me who I am, for good or for bad. Okay. And so hopefully for good. And there was a song that the guy was singing that I flew out of that concert hall, and all of a sudden I was in my home with my mom and dad and my uncle and my aunt. And your mom at that point asked me a question. She turned around, she says, "Isn't that the song ago?" And I tried to answer, and my voice was so shaky.
Yeah.
With emotion. And mom goes, "Are you all right? Drink some water." So, and it's amazing. And I've heard people say when they remember something that powerful that has occurred in their lives, that they can even smell the food that was being made, or the coffee, or it livens up your senses, and enjoy those moments, because those moments take you back to the essence of who you are in your core.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, you don't have to like run away from them
Don't
necessarily.
run, well, some people think it may be a form of weakness. But if in introspect, I think it may be one of the most powerful things that a human being can feel.
Yeah, your memory.
Yeah.
I mean, what are we
And it
without?
just happened. And Mom was asking me a question about the song, and I tried to answer, and I was all broke.
It's interesting because that I've seen like in a movie or something, or sometimes music moves me. Actually, a lot, quite often. And this weekend I was watching Andrea Bocelli, and he performs with his son.
Oh wow.
Matteo Bocelli, and he performs with Celine Dion and all these different people. How
beautiful
right?
is that, though? I mean,
it's super cool. But
Vicente Fernandez did it with Alejandro Fernandez, and a lot of people do it. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, Andrea Bocelli, something about his music, his voice is angelic. It looks effortless. His son, Matteo Bocelli, sounds similar, but it's he's still younger, and it's not what the father's voice is yet. Maybe it'll be just a different voice. Anyways, I'm watching it, and I'm sharing with my wife how beautiful this is, and this and that. Look, he was a lot younger here, and my voice starts getting shaky because there's so much like emotion in his song, in the way he sings and everything. It's so powerful. Anyways, we'll get back to
we're getting away from the law, because
but those are signs. And even if I wanted to pretend to be like, oh no, this isn't affecting me, the voice.
Yeah.
And if you're paying attention to subtle cues,
right,
people's eyes,
right.
Like I've been in conversations with people that their eyes are in another location.
Correct.
Like they're physically here, their mind wanted to be over there with those other people. And
with the answer of the phone, many times I tell many people, and sometimes you tell me sometimes, hey, please look at me. I want to share something with you. I tell people quite a bit that, I do it in the most respectful ways, but I'll potentially say, hey, tell me when you're ready. I have something important to tell you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because
then I keep quiet.
You want people's...
Tell me when you're ready to listen, because I have something important to say to you.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not fully connected with somebody if you're looking at...
Right. But the law, okay? Discover each person's thumbscrew. Everybody's got one.
And there are two main emotional voids that people try to fill. And these two voids are the most difficult to disguise. Insecurity and unhappiness.
Okay.
So Robert Greene says that those two, no matter how much people try to hide them, they're very difficult to disguise. Very difficult. Insecurity and unhappiness. And then he also talks about some people wear their vulnerabilities or their weaknesses, because everybody has a weakness. Some people wear it on their chest, and other people, it's hidden. The people that wear it on their chest, like, oh, I have a weakness for this, and are open about it, are not, they don't fall as hard as the one that is hiding it.
Correct. That's what the book says. And we have to keep in mind, folks, for our subscribers, these are power moves.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? These
Politics,
are power moves.
Business.
I mean, I took this law to defend myself, because when I started business, I was very naive.
Yeah.
I trusted everybody. I got trampled over quite a few times. And you talk about learning, that's when you really truly learn. People turn on you.
That's when you learn. That's when you learn. When you get beat up.
I used it as a self-defense mechanism even before the book was written. I took it from my, comparative religions class when I took at Loma Linda. And you just never know. That's another thing. You just never know when something that has occurred to you in your life, or somebody says a statement, how it can potentially affect you. Because I haven't been in touch with this teacher in years and years and years. And look how he helped me when I reviewed the notes that I took. He has no idea I don't know if he's alive any longer. I don't know what's happened of him. I would love to check out, look how
Yeah.
he improved my life tremendously by something that he said in class. And when I wrote it, I had no idea.
Yeah.
No idea that was
Well, but the message when you reviewed it later hit you.
Yeah, what is that saying? When the teacher
When the student is ready, the teacher will
appear.
Now, have you ever? Is there instances that you've been able to find people's thumbscrew where you use it to your advantage?
Yes.
Is there something
times.
that comes to mind where like an interaction where you realize, because you're very good at connecting with people. Like I remember even in networking events, one time you took one of he was working for you at the time. This gentleman,
one of my employees, yeah,
and you took him out, and he's like, how do you do it? I want to connect with you, and you guys went to a networking event, and you're like, this is how I do it, and then you just went up to this guy, you just started talking to him, you connected with the guy, whatever, exchanged information. It's a business networking event, and then you came back to our friend that was working for you at the time, and it was so well, share like.
Well, it was very difficult for him to do it. It just wasn't in his nature. And some of it's learned behavior. I mean, I'm sure that, I want to say that Mark Cuban, it might be Mark Cuban, the one that said, this is an instinctive behavior. You cannot learn it. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Mark Cuban.
Some people, like Gary Vee, says that you can learn it.
Right. So, but it was very difficult. It was very difficult for him to go up to someone and connect.
It was like a mental block.
Yeah, and at that time, I remember the event precisely. And then at that time, it was very easy for me to do it.
Right.
What I did was, even before I approached, I looked at how they were dressed, what kind of shoes they had, if they had a nice watch or a good pen, did they wear a hat, or a cap. Now, these are networking events, okay? So it's easier to approach someone. Everybody knows they're going to get approached. But I do it even when it's not,
right?
But you have to develop a finesse, because nowadays when you approach someone, they're very reflective. In other words, because so many bad things happen in this world of ours that you can't let people in, Now,
the reason I brought that up was because
he had a very rough time. And when I told him, okay, now it's your turn, go ahead, use some of the ideas I gave you, and he flopped. He didn't have
it just wasn't
right.
He wasn't there.
I think that he wasn't. I think that he thought he could learn it in one night, and sometimes these things are not learned in one night. It takes. What does the book say? Failure is your best teacher. It truly is. And so I had many times when I didn't make it either.
The reason I brought that up is because you connect with people very well, and you can do it quickly.
Thank you.
So, what is there a situation that comes to mind that maybe you connected with somebody in a way that you were able to find out maybe what made them tick, what was their thumbscrew, and use it to your advantage?
Yes. Okay, so we're very much involved in our business of real estate. Our real estate business is taking up all our time. But the biggest life insurance policy that I ever sold, okay, I saw, a weakness in the armor, and I brought it up to light because the guy was not going to sign. And I said, hey, we're good. I'm walking out that door. But you know what? This, and that. And I kept sitting down and I kept quiet. That's another thing. Once you throw your bomb up there, you should be quiet and let it see how it interacts with the person that you're dealing with. And in this particular case, I put it all on the line. Like when we're playing poker, I pushed it all in. And it worked. He said, you know what, Pablo, you're right. let's get this signed today, because he was going to postpone it. But I knew that there was a weakness in his armor with regards to family, and I used it to, to get this deal done, which eventually turned out to be of wonderful, fantastic, I was going to say both of them together, a wonderful and fantastic thing for them, because they were able to do many things because of this policy. Anyway, and so yes, I remember that one, and in a few other cases too.
Yeah.
In real estate too.
Yeah. Yeah, I think in business you have to be able to read people and know kind of what makes them.
I don't know if you remember one time we went into a guy's business. It was the first time that we got in there, and he had all kinds of golf plaques on the wall.
Yeah.
And
football
also from USC, remember?
Uh-huh.
And, the guy had just met us, but he allowed us to come into his office. So I said, hey, I see that you're a USC fan. Did you go to the school there? And then, boom, the next 15, 20 minutes, he was talking about that stuff. And
yeah, he opened up.
So, absolutely. Do you remember that?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, I do. So... a secret pleasure, if you can find out what somebody's secret pleasure is, one of the strategies that Robert Greene shares, again, these are power moves, right?
Right, they're power moves. That's what we need to.
You give the appearance of a sympathetic ear.
Right.
Okay. And then Robert Greene uses the example of Arabella Huntington and Joseph Duveen, the art dealer, which Arabella Huntington was married to a railroad tycoon who, something Huntington, I don't know his first name, who ends up, by the way, he ends up passing away. She marries his nephew, and they created the Huntington Library and Botanical Garden, all that, that huge collection of art. So she was involved with that, which I didn't know that. Anyways, but the story real quick is that Arabella Huntington came from very humble beginnings.
Correct.
But she had married a railroad tycoon, so she was extremely wealthy because of that.
Yeah.
And she wanted to be in San Francisco with the elite and everything, but they didn't give her the respect because they always thought, oh, she just married in, she comes from humble beginnings. But this one art dealer gave her that respect.
Joseph Duveen.
And this one art dealer, British, he ends up befriending her, teaching her what he believes to be high quality art. And then down the road...
Teaching her a little bit.
But never...
Just enough for her to get a taste of it, to appreciate things, but not too much.
Correct.
That's another one of the laws, remember? Anyway.
But he didn't do it in a way where he was demeaning. He made it, he was sharing what he believed was high quality art, and the highest quality art was the most expensive art, and he's an art dealer. But she felt heard and she felt respected with him, and when her husband passed away, she ended up buying, I think it was called let's get it right, the Little Blue Boy or something like that.
It was Gainsborough's Blue Boy.
Okay.
She paid the highest amount of money for that in history at that time.
Got it. And she bought it from him, the art dealer.
That's right.
And so I just thought that was an interesting story, because I don't necessarily think that was a bad thing either. He befriended her.
Right.
He taught her things about art. He's an art dealer. He made money. She was happy with the art she bought. It wasn't necessary. It's kind of like at the beginning of the podcast, I opened with a mutually beneficial relationship that financially, it doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be pure manipulation.
Exactly. And it depends where you're coming from. I always say, what are your intentions?
Yeah.
I say, if your intentions are noble, then, everybody wins. But these are power moves.
Yeah.
I mean, and you're talking about a time when we fought people in close hand combat or something like this, with bayonets and stuff like that. So you're talking about these are power moves. This is to be used to destroy the opponent. But
Right. A
you
weak.
and I are coming up with the other side of it, which can be beneficial for everybody. But we can't forget the fact that these are power moves, and they're to take down the enemy.
Or protect yourself from somebody who's trying to do it to you. Somebody who's trying to fake
Right.
genuineness, fake, a vulnerability, and they're trying to figure you
Yeah.
out.
Well, awareness of the laws
Yeah.
is
That's a big
extremely
one.
important. Yeah, absolutely. No
Yeah.
doubt about it.
Yeah.
And there are many ways that you can figure some of this stuff out. One of the things that I like to do, it doesn't, sometimes, most of the time when I take someone to dinner, I pay. But in the few times that I don't, I put close attention to when it comes to the time to tip. Okay, when you're going to tip your waiter, keep an eye on the person and see how they do it. Are they graceful about it? Are they, just keep an eye on the body language.
Yeah.
That's one thing that sometimes I do, every now and then. When I invite people out, I pay. But, you learn a lot. That's why Henry Ford, in that story where he took these two potential engineers out to dinner, he learned so much from both of them during the time of the dinner. Because, their weaknesses come out as they get comfortable over dinner and talking about whatever. And he was just checking everything out, and at the end of that dinner he says, I'm going to hire you, but I'm not going to hire you.
But why? What was his decision based on again?
Henry Ford, it's very interesting. He must have been a master of human behavior. One of them, they both ordered steaks. One of them put salt on the steak without trying it first.
Oh yeah.
Okay, and the other one tried the steak and then put salt. So he told the young man, hey, I want to hire somebody that tries something, and if it's not correct, then fixes it. You ended up putting salt on the steak without even tasting it, so you didn't know if it was good before that or not. So you're out.
And then also the way he treated the
Correct.
server, the server.
Correct.
The waiter,
And the other part was, yes,
that he would talk to Henry Ford and
With
then with
respect,
and then with the waiter, no
they were
respect.
oblivious to him and
They were below him.
Right. And he says a leader cannot think that his team is below you. A leader has to have the same level of appreciation for his team as the team has for him, or what he thinks of himself. You can't lead people if you think they're, commoners or below you. That's not going to last. And so that was the reason. Because the young man came back and said, how can you pick one over the other? You have not talked about the business at all. And we both comes from very good companies, colleges,
Schools, yeah.
and we're both highly thought of engineers. How can you? And he explained that. That's a very powerful thing.
Wow. Very cool. That's, I think, a great way to end
Okay.
this law is study people, their behavior, and see how or see how they're trying to study you.
Study you and manipulate you.
Yeah.
You said something the other day that I thought was very cool, and that was the minute that you think that you, what was it? I'm trying to think exactly how you said it, but the minute that you think that you're above this or whatever, that's when you start falling. Or the minute that you think that you're stronger than this, that's where your weakness.
Yeah, it was the moment that you think that something can't happen to me or
affect you or something.
Like that'll never happen to me. I'll never get into that. You're most vulnerable because you're no longer protecting yourself from
That's
it.
exactly what you said, and I thought that was pretty cool. All right.
Cool. We'll wrap it up there.
All right.
Thank you.
You very much.